fast, you move fast, you're able to solve problem very fast. So there's no bureaucracy, right? But I think once an enterprise reaches a certain scale, you need some level of processes, some level of system around it. I think a great example of it is Amazon, right? So Amazon, if you go to their office, right, and I've, since we retail through Amazon, Flipkart, all these guys, so you go to a Amazon office, you'll see the entire floor is very quiet. There's no chaos on the floor, but still the ship is moving so fast, right? It's like Titanic. So it's moving so fast, but the ship is so huge that you don't see the chaos. Go to a startup, go to a Flipkart, I mean, a contrast, right? A Flipkart or a Snapdeal, you'll still see some chaos, right? People are hustling. So there's hustling which is happening. So because they've still not figured it out. I think till the time you've not figured it out, you should be a startup. Once you figured it out, then time to become an enterprise.
See, basically, every entrepreneur, I think, when anyone starts, so हर कोई यही सोचता है कि दुनिया बदल देंगे. See, so the whole idea of being an entrepreneur is passion, and everybody, like Modi ji also pointed out in his speech, that you sort of see a sparkle in a person's eyes, somebody who's doing a business. So second, already like pointed out by Rahul and Sandeep about the culture thing. So right. So startups are all about sort of a culture that inherently comes to them with this passion, with this sparkle in the eyes. You meet any, so nowadays this sort of culture is now incorporating in the employees also, and it has to go down the line, right? See, so they see the vision, and that's what the employees usually buy out. So now, being a media, we understand now the sort of so just News and Shorts recently did a survey out of which it pointed out that more youngsters are now moving in towards joining a startup. So it's basically the brand image of working in a startup that's becoming cool and cool day in, day out. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect is even the enterprises. So coming back to the question, that even the enterprises, so like Virgin, Richard Branson. So what he points out is that I don't want just employees. I want entrepreneurs. So this is a term that has been just coined off late, wherein sort of you build a culture in the enterprises. You give the employees the power of being and working like an entrepreneur. Like Rahul pointed out that we need people who sort of quickly can take decisions and execute. So there's always a right to give an opportunity to employees to fail also, because that's the whole point of being a startup, right? You fail and then you innovate again. But the whole idea is to be aligned with the vision. So be it an enterprise or be it a startup, the whole idea is of having inherently that sparkle, that passion, that entrepreneurship aspect side of it in you. And even if you are working for a startup, doing your own startup, or in an enterprise, and maybe a larger. So I've worked with MNCs, I've worked with SME organizations, but the best thing that I felt was when I was given the power to sort of make decisions and even be wrong at times.
So I would ask one more question, and then I would head to all of you, wherein I would make you ask question to all the panelists. But before that, I have one question, and that is for Nitin. Nitin, hiring is a big challenge in a startup. Amit touched based upon those pieces in terms of, okay, culture is great and X, Y, Z, which of course for all startups, I would say that's a USP in itself. Your culture is your brand in a way. What sort of a hiring challenges does a startup really face, and how are you overcoming that as a challenge?
So, as the co-panelists have rightly, mentioned about the culture, and Sandeep has also mentioned about that you sell vision, do not sell the path. So, how we hire people or how we interact with people whom we are going to recruit is by telling them that what we want to achieve. So, there is a common goal out there that you tell people that I wanted to solve this problem. Would you like to join us? And the biggest challenges that we face is that while you are starting up, you don't have a cool office, you don't have cool processes set in place, and there's a lot of juggling and hustling that happens daily. And so in order to convince people that they are risking their jobs, their sustainability of a safe salary that they would be getting, and going to be a part of the company who is still figuring it out, how to go out there and how to making out the plans to achieve a company status. So that's the biggest challenge you face, that you don't have a fancy office, you know, to have the right sort of processes in place. And I think that's the I would say a challenging part and a good part, because then you get people who are really interested in your vision rather than process and cool office. So that's a challenge as well as a good factor.
And Rahul, how do you ensure that it doesn't affect you? Though I'm sure it might have been affecting you as well.
Hiring people. So while Nitin was saying, there was an interesting thing that few people that you want to just run away from, right? So you see, if someone comes and asks you in a interview, what are the timings for the office? Just run away from that guy. In terms of challenges for hiring, I think we were reasonably lucky. I have one of the team external team that we used for our hiring, and I think we sort of over time told them how to sell Moglix, and they did a great job of selling Moglix, which typically a founder has to do most of the time as well. So I think getting that early people in the company and then they becoming equally good in talking about the vision, selling what is going to be the Everest flag for you is a very, very important factor. And then the things start to churn out. And try to avoid any bad apples, I mean, like work-life balance and all that. It doesn't work for startup.
Professor Biswas, you have seen students, I would say, clinging on to this. What do you feel is the real resistance as they grow through? Yani, is there a societal pressure of joining a big brands because the parents see, their society see, society around us, families see, okay, oh, you are joining a startup. Acha, wo that residential basement wala office. So is that same stuck everywhere? Or is there something which is, I would say, or the startups are not able to sell their dreams very well in front of the people, in front of the aspirants?
Well, you see, primarily, I mean, I'm in university. Primarily, the students we get in the university are there to have a degree and then go on to have a job. It's primarily people from middle class background where a job gives you a fair amount of security. We don't have entrepreneurs there. Entrepreneurs probably are when they leave university, yep, they go. But what we have been trying to do, I mean, what I tell to my students, and I do see hundreds of students here, what I try to tell them that, I mean, don't go for these dreams that there are a lot of success, there are a lot of quick money. That's probably not important. And also don't get bothered by the failure. Probably 100 ideas, one idea will work, 10 ideas, one will become product, 10 products, one will probably take you to business, and 10 startups, one will probably become a company. So if you see the chain, the success rate is very low. So therefore, telling somebody who has a security mindset, has a peer pressure that I must earn money quickly, I cannot hide this failure chain from him. So I do show him the failure chain, and I tell that this is possible. And I also tell him that don't get enamored or fantasized by this quick success of making a lot of money and there will be $1 million investment. That's also the other extreme. What we try to tell the students, and what I would also take this opportunity to tell our students, to tell these students is, as you study, as you go towards a degree, it's probably worthwhile to take a year break and try to create wealth. It's very easy to think that you will join a company where somebody else is having an idea, will give you a cushy job, and you will make money and buy a car. But it's probably worthwhile to just take 1 year break in your life right after the degree, maybe 2 or 3 of you together, start the challenge of creating wealth. It may work, it may not work. But this very experience of 1 year trying to create wealth is a life skill experience that will make you far more successful as you go along. Even if you take a job or whether you go in a company or whatever you do in life, in each and every aspect, this will carry on. And this is, if you have this mindset, then I think companies will come, startups will come, and they will grow, everything will happen.
Fantastic. I would say, we all would totally align with it. Yes, Rana. But no, before you add, I have a last question for you as well. And as an extension to what Professor said and what Rahul said as well, for you, I would say you are making people's life more difficult. You are telling them to love you as a founder, but also at the same time love dogs as well. So what is making people join you, their love for you or their love for dogs?
So it is definitely both. Love for dogs makes life easier for us to hire people. There have been with every enterprise, There have been good times, there have been bad times, and I've seen that love for dogs help people stick with us, closer. We do not have high attrition rate, um, and uh, and it is very easy to make friends. Amit's company, and we are very good friends just because there is a lot of dog love between founders, and with many more companies, right? So it really works for us, right? Um, so it is both. One thing. Second is that I would like to add a practical thing what Professor just said. So I come from a very middle class family. I'm a first generation entrepreneur, and my father was a professor in a university. Happened to be a veterinary science professor. Um, but my story is a little different, wherein I never struggled to get out from a job. I mean, I never had to convince my parents, not even to my wife. And it was, I think, what Professor rightly said. I'm a living example. What he's saying is that I left my job just to say that I should not regret that I never left a job and took a plunge. And I said, what? It will be just 1 year, and let's just try it. Because I was just about to get appraisal. I was doing fantastically well in my career. And I knew as soon as my next appraisal happens, my cost of living will go high, my standard of living will go high, and then it's a viscous circle. I'll never be able to go back what I really want to do, because then I'll be having some liabilities to carry. And at that point in time, I just spoke to my wife and I said that I want to just do this. And I left my job, and I was so confident that my father and my mom and my friends would support me. And my daddy would always tell me that, when are you leaving your job? Because, so for me, it was a very different journey altogether. And once I did it for about a year, then I was sure that, I cannot go back. So I would like to differ with a few panelists here, and, I would like to put that case. But on the regret side, I, completely agree that, everybody should take that one step to start, living your dream. And we have been talking about startup a lot, but I'll take a step back and I would say that everybody should be an entrepreneur, right? Everybody should be an entrepreneur from their heart. If everybody is an entrepreneur from their heart, this world and this country would be a different place altogether. The way we look at things, if we start looking at things that this is my own country, this is my own office, this is my, I belong here, the whole setup will completely change. So we should start from now. I mean, we should not wait, even if we are in jobs or whatever, but the whole perspective of, living this life has to be an entrepreneurish, right?
It's an amazing point, and I raise money from pension funds in Scandinavia, in the United States, in Europe, Middle East as well sometime, and I tell you, everybody, there's one single country which nobody can ignore. Asset allocation and private equity in India, 2%, 1%. To Europe, 20%. Venture capital, very, very little, not even 1%. Angel money, absolutely nothing. But there's all excited about, that there's something happening in this country which we can't ignore. And people are thinking, what should be the way of putting more money into this country? And $9 or $10 billion, all that came in this country and have changed the culture, changed the phenomena. Everybody's talking about startup. That's all the money has come. 9 to 10 billion is not even a few basis point for one of the largest pension fund allocation. So the point is, there's so much money available, there's so much funds available for this country, not for any other country, for this country, and all they're waiting is for the next wave of innovation to come through a business for investors who have exited, shown you can create value. So this is an amazing country, amazing time. I don't think so a time of this kind would come back again. This is absolutely amazing. And all the correction we're listening and seeing in the market is happening for good. It's just, filtering out the good entrepreneur, good businesses, good things out, and then setting platform for the next wave to happen. So absolutely amazing time. No matter what career you are, and if you think you can make a difference, you can create a value, and if there is some entrepreneurship in you and your family, you should definitely try out. My portfolio companies have entrepreneur with the CVs you would not imagine. There's one guy who's IIT, IIM, McKinsey, Morgan Stanley, was the large real estate company of this country, left all that and started a company, failed, come back again, started another company, got investor money of profile you would not imagine. So the Shipsy company I talk about, these are IIT Delhi, Deutsche Bank guys, had a fancy paycheck, left Deutsche Bank and started doing this. So people of all kind, all culture, all whatever time in your life, people are trying out to do something in entrepreneurship because they like it. It's not because they are forced to do it. And those are doing it genuinely and passionately, the results are amazing. May not be covered by media, by the way. So what you're reading in Economic Times and other media is not the true reflection of what's happening in this country. So many good companies, so much good stuff is happening. And you should try out to be part of that or try to do something similar.
Yep. So, so I think it's a brilliant point, I think, made by Professor Bibu and also Rana. That, and coming that from a professor, I'm really, I think the next generation is going to be really blessed. I think he should have a round of applause, guys, for saying that, you should actually not go out and, take a cushy job. That coming from a professor, I think the mindset has changed. So I think this is brilliant. I think this panel has done it. We've nailed it. So the idea is that, if actually people, the youth, sort of disassociate. So I started my engineering in 2004, and it's a tier 2 college from the UP Technical University, Greater Noida. And when I joined college, so every student, be it from the IT, from mechanical, from anything, had a dream of joining Infosys. Don't know why. So, but that was the talk of the town at that point in time. TCS, Accenture, Infosys, that was the whole dream, right? And now today, sort of 12 years down the line, when day in, day out, we are seeing ads like Droom, like Amazon, like Flipkart. So the dynamics have totally changed. So I was trying to start 5 years back. My parents, my wife, everybody was like, I mean, kya pagal ho gaye ho? What exactly is going in your mind? You're doing a good job, you're moving ahead. But I think what Rana did good was he took a conscious call. I was, on the contrary, flirting with my job and entrepreneurship, trying to pull off both the things at the same time. And so landed up in a very disaster kind of a situation. But I think that's a very good point made by Professor Bhibu and Rana, that you need to maybe take a time off, and then take a full plunge into this. And then the whole idea of a startup is having this skin in the game, right? So that's when you have the skin in the game.
Fantastic. You remind me of my initial struggles when I was starting up, when I told my dad I want to quit a so-called of a decent career. So he went on a hunger strike. For 2 days he was on a hunger strike. Just imagine a person at the age of 75 years, he went on a hunger strike, and what do you do as a son? Nothing. You also go on a hunger strike. That's what I did. That's how I prevailed. So that's it. But of course, hunger strike reminded me also the lunchtime we had today, and believe me or not, don't go on my size and all. I'm well built. I don't know how. But in the lunch, I had a very, very pathetic time. All the 4 or 5 panel speakers, barring a couple of them who joined us later, so they prevailed over me, because they labeled me as the Arnab Goswami of this today panel. I don't know whether I am able to do it or no, but right now is the chance wherein you guys are going to equip me by putting up some very, very tough questions, so that I can also tell them that the nation wants to know. Yes, raise your hands and let's get started. Yes, sir. Can we have some mic over there? Over there, in the last row. And I would request everybody to just think it off. It would be really great if we have some questions from various sections, students as well, professionals as well, and also from the industry. Yeah, sir.
Capital being the most important part of the business, my question is to Dheeraj. What is the typical ROI fund, VC is actually looking forward for?
So it's kind of whatever they committed to their LPs, so whatever they committed to their investor. Normally, I think private equity style of ROI or IRR is around 20-25% over the tenure of the fund. VCs normally look for higher than that, and they look for one magical success. That could be a 50 times of their money, 100 times of their money, some one magical success, and then whatever that 20-25% IRR for some of the portfolio company, and they then obviously accept that some will fail. Angels would look for anything. I mean, it could be a complete disaster, or it could be a could be 100x, 140x. So one of my friend invested in News in Short. Tiger did the last round. He's 140x of his money. Couple of guys I know invested in Ola and housing. Housing we don't know, but in Ola they're sitting on amazing 3-digit X number. So I think depending on what stage of investment you're doing it, but I think institutional organized money where you are, taking pension fund money or sovereign wealth money and converting into a private equity venture capital class, I think if you can provide them 20% IRR, will be a great kind of situation.
Subsequent to that, what could be a typical time frame that these guys look into?
I think private equity is 7 to 8 years. VCs could go all the way up to 10 year. Angel, depending on what's your appetite. I mean, if company really does well, you see that you'll be out in the 3rd or 4th round because they want to clean up the cap table, which could be a couple of years time.